Another of this year's Oscar contenders that I've been looking at this week was The Lost Daughter, written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, making her feature film debut, and based on the novel by Elena Ferrante. It's the story of a literature professor, a translator, played by Olivia Colman, who's travelled to a Greek island ostensibly for a working holiday. She's staying in a small villa uh, with a friendly caretaker played by Ed Harris. But the villa is quite run down. It has a cockroach problem. It's right on the beach, so there's noise. And after a couple of days of being able to work quietly on the beach side, a family arrives, a large extended Greek American family, having some sort of family get together and celebration. And gradually, our main character gets involved in their lives, particularly when the young daughter of the family goes missing. Um, our main character helps with the search, and the girl is found after a short time, having simply wandered off into the woods nearby, and she's perfectly fine, but her doll is missing, and it turns out our main character has taken it. Over the course of the story, we get to learn more about our characters, particularly through flashback. Our main character is played in the past tense by Jessie Buckley, and she is struggling with having two young daughters who are endlessly demanding her attention, preventing her from really having any kind of life on her own, preventing her from working, getting in the way of her personal life, her sex life. Everything is totally subsumed into caring for her two daughters. And the film is essentially about these attitudes to motherhood that perhaps aren't often articulated. The idea is that as she says, she's not a natural mother. She never truly bonded with her children. And there is an ominous sense all the way through of something terrible having happened. Maybe she's running away from something. She says that she has two young children. She says she has two children, but that they're actually in their 20s, and we see only them as young children. I was led to think, did she do something awful? Is she on the run from having done something terrible? And although that question is answered, it's really secondary to the ideas of fitting into roles, fitting into um, uh, kinds of boxes that society expects from you. Women are expected to be mothers, and the contrast between the different female characters in the film, the women in the Greek American family, one played by Dakota Johnson, who is clearly unhappy with her life, um, and another older one who's kind of looking over the other one's shoulder, making sure that she doesn't stray. And they establish a friendship with the English woman, whose name I've completely forgotten. Um, it creates this very interesting dynamic. The film is it's a difficult watch. It's slightly over 2 hours, and it's on an awkward subject. I'd actually recommended it to my mother to watch because she's a great fan of some of the author's other works, and it was difficult for her as well because it's very much outside, I think, the author's usual style, but the subject matter is so dark and odd and uncomfortable that it's not an easy watch. That said, it's brilliantly acted. Olivia Colman delivers one of the best performances of the year, and that really shouldn't be surprising because she's great in everything. Gyllenhaal is a supremely confident filmmaker. For a first film, this is brilliantly made. It's brilliantly edited, where we have sound and image from different scenes overlapping in a way that feels perfectly coherent and natural, but still has a kind of a level of dissonance that you can see the reality and the train of thought of the characters at the same time, and it's a very clever technique that you expect from a more a seasoned, experienced filmmaker, but here just technique fully formed. So I'd be very excited to see whatever she's doing next. I think as an adaptation of the book, it's probably extremely good because I know Ferrante's work is quite complex and difficult. And in the original book, all the characters are Italian, so making the lead British and the visiting family Greek American, I think, was a sop to an English language audience, but also it works within the context very well, I think. The family in the original are this Neapolitan hooligans. Um, so it's not an easy film by any means. It's definitely an awards type movie, but it's far from the kinds of lazy prestige Oscar bait. This is not a lazy, easy film, but it's definitely a worthwhile one, and it's definitely worth your time.